My name is Tessary Vaughn, and for 11 cycles I was the lead atmospheric conversion engineer on acquisition file 4471, which the Council now refers to only as the Renner failure. I am the one who has to stand here and explain it, so I will explain it plainly, the way I was trained to. The Varangol Combine does not invade, we buy. It is cheaper, quieter, and it holds up in whatever passes for law on a given world. On the human world we call Designation 7, we found a farming district in economic collapse, failing grain contracts, an aging population, land going fallow. We arrived as an energy investment firm. We purchased the granary, the water rights, and 11,000 acres of dormant field, and we told the district we intended to modernize it. This was not entirely a lie. We did intend to modernize it. We intended to lower its temperature by 11 degrees over 4 seasons, gradually enough that no human census would flag it as anomalous, until the district sat at a climate suitable for combine settlement. Cold is not hostile to us. Cold is home. We have done this on 6 other worlds without incident. The lattice went into the ground, disguised as irrigation infrastructure. Frost conversion nodes buried at 9-meter intervals, drawing ambient heat down through the water table, and venting it skyward, in patterns the district's own weather service logged as unusual cloud formation, and nothing more. It worked exactly as modeled, every field but one. The one was Dorothy Renner's. She was 68 years old, widowed, and she ran 40 head of dairy cattle and a grain allotment on land her family had worked for 4 generations, alone, since her husband died. Our district survey flagged her as a low-priority holdout. She'd refused our purchase offer twice, and recommended we simply build around her and let the lattice do the rest. Cold does not need permission. It was assumed she would sell within 2 seasons, once the mornings got hard enough. I want to be precise about what I watched happen instead, because precision is the only thing that matters now. The lattice reached full calibration in the district's 3rd month under our management. Ambient temperature at the Renner property dropped 9 degrees below regional average, enough that our own field technicians required thermal layering to walk her fence line for readings. She walked it in a canvas coat and bare hands, twice a day, to break ice on the trough for cattle that did not seem cold either. Our biological consult flagged this as a statistical outlier in isolation and nothing more. Humans vary. We proceeded. By the 5th month, ambient temperature at her property had dropped past the threshold our models use to predict human retreat indoors, the point at which exposed skin begins to suffer frostbite within 20 minutes at rest. She did not retreat indoors. She fixed a water pump that had frozen solid, with her sleeves pushed up, and stood in place doing it for the better part of an hour, while my monitoring team watched her surface temperature readouts and waited for numbers that did not come. Her fingers did not blanch. Her breathing did not shorten. When she finished, she went inside, and our sensors picked up her body temperature rising back to a resting baseline within 11 minutes. Faster, notably, than it had been depressed in the first place. I reported this as an anomaly, requiring direct verification. The Council authorized a controlled test. We do not use the word weapon in our own documentation, but I will use it here, because that is what the device was. A focused thermal draw unit, the kind we use to accelerate the freeze on a target structure or organism when the ambient lattice is too slow. It is the same class of instrument that put 6 other worlds into dormancy ahead of schedule, and I would have staked my rank on its service record before that morning. It was disguised in our survey equipment as a soil density scanner, a housing my own team designed specifically so it could sit in the open, in a farmyard, without drawing a second look. On the morning of the test, 2 of my technicians approached Dorothy Renner, under the pretense of taking ground samples near her equipment shed, and activated it at close range, aimed at her directly, for 4 minutes. The device is rated to drop a target organism's surface and core temperature by several degrees within that window. It is not subtle. It has never, on any world, failed to register a measurable drop. It did not register a measurable drop. She noticed the equipment. She was not a stupid woman, and she said later she'd felt a cold spot, like standing in a freezer door. And she asked my technicians, not unkindly, if they were about done, because she had chores. Her core temperature, according to our own instrument, moved 0.4 degrees and corrected itself before my technicians had finished packing up. She went and fed the cattle. We ran the test 6 more times over the following weeks, at higher output, at different times of day, once for a full 9 minutes at maximum draw, the longest sustained exposure our safety protocols permit, before risking organ failure in a combine settler. My technicians began logging their own reactions alongside hers, because there was nothing else remarkable to log. One wrote that the frost formed visibly on the equipment casing itself, while she stood 3 meters away in short sleeves, unbothered, asking whether the readings were coming back yet, because she had bread in the oven. Dorothy Renner's body treated each of these events the way yours might treat stepping briefly out of a warm room. She complained, once, that our surveying was making the yard too cold for her tomatoes, and asked us to move the equipment. I want the council to understand what this did to the model, because I do not think the summary reports conveyed it. Our entire terraforming strategy for Designation 7, and the 5 district acquisitions planned to follow it, was built on a single assumption verified across 6 other worlds, that a cold-blooded, temperature-vulnerable species will retreat, weaken, and eventually vacate territory subjected to a sustained thermal draw. It is not a violent strategy. It is, by our standards, a humane one. It works because the biology holds. Her biology did not hold the line we needed. It did not hold any line we could locate. My team spent 3 additional months trying to find the threshold, the output level, the duration, the exposure pattern that would finally produce the deficit the model required, and we never found it. We tried isolating variables the way we would on any other world: diet, sleep, age, the condition of her joints, which one of my juniors suggested might be arthritic and therefore slower to register cold at all. None of it explained the readings. Her physiology corrected the draw faster than we could sustain it, not through shelter, not through equipment, not through any behavior we could interrupt or purchase away. It corrected because that is, apparently, simply what a human body does when it gets cold. It gets to work. I stood in front of this council 4 days ago and reported that acquisition file 4471 could not proceed to full conversion because the lattice's underlying model had failed against a single 68-year-old dairy farmer working a fence line in a canvas coat, and that I could not, in good conscience, certify the model as sound for any future world where that species might be present in numbers. The council has voted to withdraw the acquisition. Our purchase reverts to the district under standard forfeiture terms within the season. I am told this is being framed publicly as a change in the combine's investment priorities. Before we struck the lattice, protocol required a final site visit. I went myself. I found Dorothy Renner in her yard, breaking ice off the trough one more time, the last morning it would need it. I told her, in the language our translators give us for exactly these situations, that our company had decided not to proceed with the district development, and that the land would be returned. She looked at the frost still clinging to the fence posts, then at me, and said that was probably for the best, since her cattle didn't seem to mind the cold, but she'd been getting a little tired of chopping ice every morning, for a company that never did seem to feel it either way. I have reviewed every data point from acquisition file 4471 more times than I can account for, and I have found no flaw in our instruments, no error in our calibration, no failure of the lattice itself. There was only ever the one variable we did not model correctly, and she is, as far as I can determine, entirely unremarkable among her species. That is the finding I am required to submit to this council, and I submit it now. We did not lose this world to a weapon, or a fleet, or a war. We lost it to a woman with cold hands, who simply would not stay cold.